He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
And good morning, Coastal Mississippi. Welcome back to the Coast View. As I've said so many times before, this is a show that celebrates the men and women of the Mississippi Gulf Coast. This has been an amazing week. We had Governor Barber on Monday, Bobby Mahoney on Tuesday, Allen View's Rick Carter and Terry Green a couple of days ago. Then we had John Hairston, the CEO of Hancock Whitney, yesterday. If you missed those conversations, all you have to do is go to your favorite podcast, go to SuperTalk Gulf Coast 103.1 webpage, or YouTube, or Facebook. You can listen to it or watch it however you want to watch it. We end the week of the Coast View with a really important topic, and this is an especially special guest. So let me sort of set it up for you. When you study the history of a successful community, what you find that a lot of things are working well, but there are a few things that are more important than a vibrant and healthy nonprofit community that's always full of good volunteers and great staff. It takes a lot of nonprofits like that to make a community tick. And they come in a bunch of different forms. The Boys and Girls Club, Brett Favre's Favre for Hope Foundation, Goodwill Industries of South Mississippi, Gulf Coast Community Foundation, Gulf Coast Symphony, Make-A-Wish, Steps Coalition, United Way of South Mississippi. The list goes on. And then there's also organizations like the Coast Chamber and the Gulf Coast Business Council. These are nonprofits that are working to build a stronger business community so that there are more jobs. I'm a Catholic. I like to think about what the Pope said about jobs. He said when someone has a job, they have dignity. All of these foundations that I just mentioned, and more like them, call the Knight Nonprofit Center on Seaway Road in Gulfport their home. And that's thanks to a generous $2.3 million grant from the Knight Foundation. More on the Knight Foundation here in just a second. If you dive deeply into understanding the funding sources of these nonprofits that serve coastal Mississippi, what you're going to find is that there are a lot of people like you and me that are giving locally. But you may also find that there are regional and national givers or foundations, and just because they are not located here doesn't mean they don't care deeply and passionately about our community. We covet their involvement. We can't build a strong community without them. There is one, though, that stands out, and that's the Knight Foundation that I mentioned a second ago. They have been here in coastal Mississippi since the Sun Herald was purchased by Knight Ridder in 1986, and they are still here today. Their president and CEO is my friend Alberto Ibargüen. He's one of the most incredible foundation and media leaders I've ever known, and he cares deeply about coastal Mississippi. In fact, he was actually here on the ground in the days that followed Hurricane Katrina. He's got a long resume. He's the former publisher and president of El Nuevo Herald in Miami and the Miami Herald. While he was at the Miami Herald, they won 3 Pulitzers. He has served on so many philanthropic and corporate boards, it's impossible to list them all here. But to give you a flavor of it, he served on the boards of PBS, American Airlines, PepsiCo, Norwegian Cruise Lines. The list goes on. But the most important thing I want him to know is that he's my hero, and he is Alberto Ibargüen. Alberto, how are you doing this morning, buddy?
That's it.
Sorry, go ahead, come back. We didn't hear you right at the beginning. Say it again.
I just say I don't like being your hero. I like being your friend. Let's leave it there. Good morning.
Good morning, Alberto. It's so good to see you. And I'm looking at that beautiful view behind you, and I miss it. I'll have to come visit soon and see that beautiful view again.
It's actually pretty cloudy here in Miami, but you guys in Biloxi would know about sun, so
yeah, nobody's
going to fool you.
We do. Alberto, I mentioned this to you, but I have so many favorite stories of you, but one that matters to me is you and I there was a reception at your house at some point along the way in our journey together. And I remember going into your library and seeing all these amazing books. They were in Spanish and English, and they were incredible. And I ultimately actually built a library similar to it. Certainly didn't have as many books in it. But you said the only difference between you and me was that you had more years than me. That was it. I said, I wish that were true, because you're clearly one of the most dynamic guys that I know.
Actually, it was that your relationship and mine is one of the reasons why when I became president of Knight and there was an opportunity to do something in Biloxi after Katrina, it was just such a natural thing for me because relationships are built on the actual experience and on the relationships with people, and you and I already had a very good working relationship as a result of both of us working for Knight Ridder newspapers. And in fact, your listeners may not know, but I actually tried to hire you to come here to Miami, and you refused because you kept on talking about this Mississippi, south coast of Mississippi and Biloxi and how wonderful it was and how I had to come down there to see it. And I thought, well, all right, I lost one, but I gotta go look at this place one of these days.
Well, thank you for not hiring me. Go ahead.
And I never expected that I would in the circumstances that I did, because you recall it was right after the storm. The storm, I think, was on a Sunday, Monday.
Right.
Tuesday we sent $1 million to the Red Cross and the Salvation Army, and I was trying to get hold of you to see what was going on. I think we got together on the phone on maybe Thursday, and you said the magic words for somebody who's been in the newspaper business: you gotta see this to believe it. And I hung up the phone, called up the airlines. The closest I could get to was Mobile. So Saturday morning I flew to Mobile, rented a Ford pickup in Mobile, and drove over and slept in the parking lot of the newspaper for several nights. But I've never forgotten the lessons from that time about the power of a newspaper to help community, to inform, to build community, to create community in those mornings when, you remember, you used to print the paper up in Columbus, Georgia, I think, because you couldn't print it in Biloxi yet, and people would walk over to get a copy of their newspaper. And as Stan Tyner, your editor at the time, said, he's holding a bunch of papers in his hands. He said, every one of these is a story. My job is to weave it all together and make it an understandable narrative so people can know what happened, what's about to happen, and what can I do, where are we going. That sense of community, that contribution to community, I thought was really worth fighting for. Well, you guys did an amazing job.
As you know, Stan and the team did an incredible job, and the Sun Herald was recognized with the Pulitzer Prize Gold Medal as a result of that teamwork. I remember there was a point where you and I were standing in the Isle Capri during the charades when Andres Joani and that team was here, and you hugged me and you said, "Thank you for inviting me." I was so touched by your passion for our community, and you had not been in the seat of the Knight Foundation for very long before that. It was just a matter of weeks, right?
I'd been president for about a month, and after that experience of actually visiting with you and Stan and the others, when I left, I remember telling you that if somebody was going to, what I thought was, this could go in 1,000 different directions, or if it's coordinated, this could actually become some foundational moment for the future of the community. Mm-hmm. And I told you, if somebody coordinates this thing, give me a call. I want to help. So a week later, unbeknownst to, I guess you must have told Haley Barbour, because I was up at Ford Foundation in New York, telling them about what I had seen and what I thought they should do. And I was going from the foundation to the airport, to LaGuardia Airport. The phone rings, my cell phone, and it's Haley Barbour. And I cannot and will not try to imitate Haley Barbour's accent, but he said something like, "Son, we're going to put this thing together, and I want to do it as a private matter so that we can get this thing going really, really quickly." And he said, "I've got this guy down from your way, Andres Duany." I almost didn't recognize his name. And Jim Barksdale, whom I did know and admired tremendously for his work with public radio. And I said, Governor, you get Barksdale and you get Dwaney and we'll pay for it. And he said, that's what he said. Well, now, son, he said, we're not talking $1,000 or tens of thousands. We're talking some real money here. And I thought, oh, my God, I've been in this job for a month. And already I'm promising the governor of the state money I may not be able to deliver. So I said, well, Governor, if I can't get it from Knight, I think I know how to get it from someplace else. And he said, okay. And we ended up with Barksdale paying for half and Knight paying for half. And 2 weeks later, we were at the Isle of Capri with hundreds of people doing those charrettes, planning the future of the South Coast.
We'll connect the dots on all of this after the break, but it's what a great beginning of our introduction of Alberto Ibargüen and the Knight Foundation for people who didn't know the Knight Foundation. It's a great start to the conversation. We'll be back right after the break.
Also listen live to SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on your Amazon Alexa devices. Once you've enabled the skill, just say, Alexa, open SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast.
Draining slow? Did you know this could be the beginning of a bigger problem with your plumbing system? At Masterflow Plumbing, we keep your pipes flowing, serving the Gulf Coast commercial and residential markets. Masterflow Plumbing, from water to sewer lines, toilets to water heaters, or faucets to clogged drains. If it has a pipe and it quits flowing, Masterflow will keep it going. See a leak in your kitchen, bath, or yard? Call Masterflow Plumbing. We know leaks inside and out. Proudly serving the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Call 228-870-0471 or visit masterflowplumbing.net.
Sometimes the issues of life require the assistance of a professional. Whether it involves an asbestos-related disease such as mesothelioma, personal injury from an accident, a real estate issue, or even an impending arrest charge, you need the help of an attorney. Cumbest, Hunter & McCormick have more than 100 years combined experience representing the interests of Jackson County and Gulf Coast clients. Cumbest, Hunter & McCormick, proud to support the Ole Miss Rebels. 762-5422, cchmlawyers.com.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who owes back taxes, if you get nervous when the mail comes because you might get a letter from the IRS, then you've heard. Their enforcement agents are cracking down this year and can garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts. Even your home or business could be at risk over unpaid taxes. It's all true, but it's also true there's a way out. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative, an important government program for tax debt assistance. The award-winning experts at Optima Tax Relief will fight to get you the best deal possible, protecting your paycheck and your assets from IRS collections. But don't delay, because the IRS is tacking on interest and hefty penalties every single day. So don't wait until it's too late. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-936-9033. 800-936-9033. 800-936-9033.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Sidewalk side or neutral ground side. It doesn't matter if you can't fit everyone in the car on parade night. And don't forget to make space for throws. Visit Baldwin Subaru in Covington, and we'll show you how the Subaru Ascent is a Mardi Gras game changer. With 19 cup holders, there's spots for everyone's Go Cup, and room for 8 means Grandma won't have to compete with your beads for the last seat. Whether you're a sidewalk sider or a neutral ground sider, Baldwin Subaru has the parade vehicle for you.
So you probably already know Adventures Pub and Spirits has won awards for local favorites Hangout on the Coast and Best Bar on the Coast, but you may not know that Adventures also features an excellent lunch special menu Monday through Friday. Homemade lasagna, burgundy beef tips, chicken fried steak, shrimp creole, and more for only $8.95. Oh, my personal favorite, the seafood pie loaded up. Lump crab meat, shrimp and cheese, baked in a flaky pie crust. Adventures Pub and Spirits, 1 block north of the Hard Rock, next door to City Hall on Lemuse.
This is Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back. This is Ricky Matthews, and we've got Alberto Ibargüen. Alberto, are you there?
I'm here.
Good. I don't see you, but there I think there you are right there. So anyway, we've had a good conversation about Alberto's passion for coastal Mississippi and how that came about. But one of the points I wanted to make, and you may have heard him talk about going to the Ford Foundation and then getting the call from Haley Barbour after that. One of the things that Alberto did, and lots of people did who have connections outside the coast of Mississippi with nonprofit communities all over the nation, is that they're maintaining these relationships and they're keeping them because you never know when you're going to need them. And I call them, as Bush used to refer, the 1,000 points of light. These are the people who are not just working inside the community, but working outside the community to keep people passionate about our community. That's so important, isn't it, Alberto, as we try to build a strong community?
Absolutely, and it's important, Ricky, in every part, whether you're talking about on a national level, like you're just talking now, or even regional, but also local. One of the things that made me so sure of what we were doing, beside the obvious need, anybody can go look at it. You look at a picture of what happened after that, and you can't not be moved. You just can't not be. But you don't know until you talk with the people there, and it's until you see people days after cleaning up, getting on with life, moving ahead, saying, I'm going to do something, and then leaning on their neighbors, helping helping each other. And then you start meeting the likes of you and Haley Barbour, Jim Barksdale, Anthony Topazzi, Roger Wilder, I remember. So very, very well-known names. Adele Lyons was another one. Terrific people. And then there's that one woman whose name I don't know, who was the ticket agent at the airport. And she said to me, I'm a tough old gal, but I ain't never seen nothing like this. But I'm going to get by no matter what. And I thought, boy, that's somebody I'm going to bet on. And the relationships you build in there are good forever.
So you influenced the process in developing the night center that we are now housing so many nonprofits. You made a connection to me to go to Princeton and meet with the Johnson Foundation and spend a day with them. And you went on, the Knight Foundation went on to spend, I think, around $8 million after Hurricane Katrina. And that's in addition to other investments that have been made since 2005. So it's been a great. Yeah, go ahead.
That's right. We are committed to the community. We were started, as you know, by two brothers who did very, very well and wanted to give back to the communities where they had done well. And so since Katrina, actually, we put in $1 million into the Habitat for Humanity build. You've mentioned the community center that we're also proud of. We're also incredibly proud of our contributions to the Orr O'Keefe.
Yes.
To the building of that fantastic museum that is iconic in the South Coast. I think those are all things that we're extremely proud of, and we continue to be interested in the community and are working with the Community Foundation these days maybe in a less dramatic way than after the storm, but supporting investing in partnerships with the Gulf Coast Community Foundation on projects in smart design, in the arts, and in entrepreneurship.
Yes. So coming back to the Orr Museum and buildings and efforts like that, you have a very strong feeling about the role the arts play in engaging a community. Talk about that for a second.
I do, and part of it is just personal interest and experience, but part of it is also research that we've done with the Gallup organization and with others. It turns out that personal connections, culture, call it the culture of a place, and the arts in that place are among the most important things that bind people to place. If you're in the business of building community, you have got to have commitment to place. And so when we started thinking about it, I said, well, we ought to foment this. We ought to invest in this. We don't, however much money any foundation has, you don't have enough money to do all of the things you would need to or even like to do. So you've got to pick a handful, and you've got to choose to, I think, to accelerate or leverage what is naturally happening in that community. If you can do that, your dollars can multiply and go a long way. So you look for a place, you look for things that are already happening. The Or O'Keefe was already underway. The kinds of things that the nonprofit organizations that now are at the Knight Community Center, were already happening. What we did was simply make it possible to accelerate or leverage the work that authentically local people were already doing. They know what the needs are. They know who the people to work with are. So why should we from Miami, or whether it's New York or Chicago or anywhere, or Washington, tell people what to do? They know what they need to do. And our job is to accelerate or leverage the good things they've started.
Hey, so Alberto, where do you come from? Tell your quick story, because part of what we're trying to do with this show is inspire young people to find those moments in their life and take advantage of it, so they can work, learn some new things and find new dogged determination. And everybody that we're interviewing are incredibly successful people. So give a brief view of your ascension.
At 76 years old, it's hard to be brief. But maybe the moral of the story is just hang on. Things will be interesting. I was born in Puerto Rico. My father was Cuban. He was a Cuban immigrant during the Depression to Philadelphia. Got a job. The company sent him to Puerto Rico, and that's where he met my mother. The company brought him back to Philadelphia, then New York. Most of my early life was around New York. I went to school in New England at Wesleyan University, was in the Peace Corps for 5 years in the Amazon territory in Venezuela and Colombia, went to law school at the University of Pennsylvania, and then had a series of legal jobs, starting from legal aid to regular law practice to ultimately counsel at a bank, before I ended up running part of the business and then the whole business at several newspapers. I worked in Hartford in newspapers, in New York in newspapers, and then had the incredible privilege of becoming the publisher of the Miami Herald and a Nuevo Herald here in Miami. And when I retired from that is when I came to the foundation. And when I look back on it, there was no guiding plan. What there was always, though, was a commitment in every place I've ever lived and in every job I've ever done. Was a commitment to be part of the community, to engage with the community, to help community engagement. And there was also the gratefulness for a great liberal education, if I could put in a plug for people. I know these days people want to have a specific task kind of focused career that they can get a job on right after college. In my experience, the best thing I ever did was to have an education that taught me how to always keep on learning, because my career has certainly not been a straight line. Mm-hmm. And having that kind of base background of a great liberal education has been, I think, one of the glories of my life.
Well, I often tell people this, Alberto, that one of the things about being a publisher of a newspaper is you learn how much you don't know.
Oh, yes.
With each passing day, it humbles you, and it makes you search for more knowledge. And that process for continuous learning, that everyday humbling, keeps you learning and keeps you thirsty for more information. That sounds familiar to you, doesn't it?
It absolutely, and you couldn't be more right. I mean, from your experiences in Biloxi and Mobile and in New Orleans, you and I are the same in that we are always interested in so many different things. And so a newspaper publisher job is the perfect job, because you're all across the community and people come at you with every kind of thing you never ever imagined. It's a terrific job.
As you look back
putting it all together and sharing that enthusiasm for the place, I think is really part of the job.
Yeah, it really is. Now, when I retired, 3 years ago, you said, "What are you going to do now?" And I said, well, I'm just going to enjoy grandkids and fishing and hunting. And you literally laughed. So you're not surprised. You're not surprised that we're having this conversation right now, are you?
Not in the least. Not in the least.
So
I don't think people like you and me were meant to retire. And I don't know, when they boot me out of this job, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I may call you up for a job on your radio.
Yeah, well, I would love to have you. Hey, when we come back, I want to talk about some of the mentors that Alberto had along the way, and then I want to tell you a little bit more about the Knight Foundation and their commitment and the kind of things that they're working on today. So we'll be back right after this break.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
Bullet points. I'm Eben Brown. Could it be that after more mass shootings, more people will want so-called red flag laws aimed at taking firearms from mentally unstable people?
People that are insane, people that are sick up here, I don't want them to be able to get a gun.
President Trump likes the idea on its face, as if now nobody with documented mental illness or aggression issues would get flagged in a background check.
In addition, the same individual may not have any records that rise to the level of commitment or adjudication.
Adeline Alchin's group supports red flag laws, but what could stop someone from trying to take your guns away just because they don't like you? Amy Swear with the Heritage Foundation.
When properly constructed to afford robust due process protections, red flag laws may provide an important mechanism for intervention with regard to both suicides and mass public shootings.
And those are your bullet points. I'm Eben Brown, Fox News.
Everyone in my family uses electricity differently. But when it comes to our Touchstone Energy Cooperative, we all think about it the same way. The co-op is power. Sure, electricity turns the lights on, but power is the information I get from my co-op about efficiency, safety, technology. And I trust the co-op because we are the co-op.
They're our neighbors.
Our friends. Our home.
Brought to you by Coast Electric and Singing River Electric, your Touchstone Energy Cooperatives.
It's that time of year again, and everyone has a wish list. Make sure window tinting from Solar Control is on your list. Now's the best time to have your car or truck tinted because Solar Control is giving you 20% off for a limited time. That's right, 20% off the regular price of lifetime warranty 3M window tint. Gift certificates are available. For a free estimate, call 872-0805. Solar Control in Ocean Springs, the coast's only 3M window film dealer. Don't squint, get tint.
2020 is here, and it's clear that this is the year for a new John Deere. It's time to do more. More cutting, more planting, more hauling. Think SunSouth. More pulling, grading, and lifting. Think SunSouth. More digging and clearing. You got it. Think SunSouth. Right now, you can drive a new John Deere 3025 tractor package, including tractor, loader, box blade, 5-foot rotary cutter, and a 7x20 trailer, all for as low as $285 a month. Or save up to $4,300 off a John Deere 1025R with loader. 2020, new year, new Deere, and SunSouth is the clear choice for the most dependable, most affordable equipment made. Clearly better, clearly affordable, John Deere and SunSouth, helping you do more and save more with the best prices on the best equipment. Visit your neighbors at SunSouth or shop online at sunsouth.com.
Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. Offer ends January 31st, 2020.
When the power goes out, you feel helpless. Stumbling in the dark, especially during a hurricane, is dreadful. Bay Motor Winding wants you to have your comfort and independence. A Briggs & Stratton standby generator system from Bay Motor Winding will automatically power your entire home, keeping the lights, appliances, and cooling running smoothly. Select Briggs & Stratton generators come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Visit baymotorwinding.com before the power goes out.
Just like money in your pocket, that's super fun. When you trade with us, you always get our best. Super deals are why, whether you sell or buy. We cash checks, we pay bills, we make loans like no one will.
from the Gallo Radio Show archives.
In the house, Mike Hurst.
When I started at the end of 2017, sadly, our office had gotten so low during the last administration. I think in FY16, we prosecuted 11 illegal immigration cases, 11, which is embarrassing. First year I was there, we had jumped almost 700% to 77 prosecutions. And Paul, that number I think is going to increase very much more this year. We are continuing to see illegal immigration impact crime around the state. I'll give you a perfect example. About a month ago, we prosecuted an illegal alien who had brought 9 kilos of heroin and 1 kilo of fentanyl through our state. Now, to give your listeners an idea of what 2.2 pounds of fentanyl will do, that will wipe out 1 million people, Paul. That'll wipe out 1/3 of our state.
This has been another Gallo Radio Show audio archive. The Mississippi Power Weather Center. Your weather now.
Cloudy and breezy, an 80% chance of showers with some thunderstorms mixed in this afternoon. High 71 tonight. Chance of rain down to 60%. Could see some overnight thunderstorms. Temperature steady in the low 70s. Tomorrow we'll see more of the severe thunderstorms in the afternoon. 100% chance of rain. Temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s. Visit MississippiPower.com/ways to save to learn about programs and resources that can help you save energy and money on your electric bill.
He's the former president and publisher of the Sun Herald, and now he's on the radio. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back. We've got Alberto Ibargman, who is the president and CEO of the Knight Foundation. We're having a terrific conversation about his passion for coastal Mississippi. We talked a little bit about his history. Alberto, I want you to take a few minutes and just share 2 or 3 mentors you had along the way, and what are the nuggets that you got from them?
You know, it's funny. You asked me to think about that, and I it's hard not to mention some of the obvious ones. My mother's generosity, my father's immigrants' drive to succeed. Those are really all very important. I've been incredibly lucky to have great teachers along the way and wonderful bosses. But there are a couple, and I would say probably the best boss I ever had was Gerald Austin, who was a surgeon, a great cardiac surgeon at the Massachusetts General Hospital. He was chairman of Knight Foundation. I've simply never had a conversation with Dr. Austin that I didn't learn from. He'd always start out saying supportive. Al, we're on the same page, he'd say. I just have a few questions. And then in those few questions, he would make me re-examine my premises, re-examine both the purpose and the direction and the implementation. It was a wonderful way to think about things. I admire my father-in-law, who had all the integrity in the world. He was an accountant and a CPA in Argentina. And I can't not mention Jack Knight, because in many ways, he sort of brings together so many people that have influenced me. Jack Knight was a man of action, a man of principle, a guy who was proud of, and actually said at one point, I heard him on tape, although I never actually met him. I've sat in his office now for better than 20 years at the newspaper and now at the foundation. And he said he just wanted to be known as a guy who was open-minded, fair, and opinionated. That's fantastic to me.
Yeah, his book, as you so well know, inspired so many of us. One of the good things about being in a Knight community, back when I became publisher, one of the first gifts that was given to me was that book, and in it displays so well what it means to be committed to the community. Everything you just said about him, to be opinionated. I mean, he won a Pulitzer as a result of the work, the writings he did around the Vietnam War. Right. What an incredible man that reminds us why it is important to have a free press, why it's important, especially the role that a newspaper and media in general in digital age plays in the community to make sure that people are informed and engaged and can make decisions about what's happening in their community so that there is a viable democracy. It's all extraordinarily real, and that's what he brought to the table. His legacy is that.
He absolutely did. And he said from 60 years ago, there's a speech he gave, I think it was in Akron, Ohio, where he said the purpose of a great newspaper is to inform the citizens so that the people may determine their true interests. He was a patrician, Republican, conservative guy in his personal style, but he absolutely believed that an informed citizenry is what could make democracy really work, and that's what this foundation is dedicated to. I think it's really important, though, to remember the open-mindedness with which he started, though. Was also a hallmark of the way that he approached the problem. He wants to be open-minded. Okay, tell me anything. Fair, I want to evaluate it, and then opinionated, because he doesn't like on the one hand this, on the other. He hated editorials that said, well, on the one hand this, and on the other hand that. He said, no. You guys think it through, and then bingo, tell me what your opinion is. You've studied it. Now let's have an opinion, and let's talk about that.
Yeah, it was good. In preparing for this, it was. I caught myself getting drawn back into some of his writing, and man, he was really an exceptional writer. And there have been several people who have done a good job of capturing the essence of what he contributed over the years. What stands out to you about things that he had written?
Well, I think the thing that most stands out is the directness with which he approached whatever subject it was. He wrote a piece one Friday that would just break your heart. It was the week that he found out that his son had been killed during World War II. That is a journalist through and through. That this was what was on his mind. He writes clearly, he writes beautifully, he writes with his heart. The editorials that he wrote during the Vietnam War were the things that got him the Pulitzer Prize. He was not an ideological objector to it. He was a very practical critic of it, and really dissected and based his arguments on facts as they were known at the time, and I think that's also an admirable trait. He wasn't a polemicist. He wasn't there to just yell like a lot of people on TV programs. He wasn't there to just give an opinion. He had thought it through, and he had looked at the facts, thought it through, and then developed his position, and that was quite admirable.
So he
also, Ricky, never confused opinion or. Humanly, of course, we all cross the line sometimes. Right. But he didn't confuse news and opinion, and he really wanted his news pages to be as straight up as they could possibly be, and that's the place where you build trust in the community by delivering a news news report that people can instinctively verify and then trust. Yes. And that trust is missing today in America, I think in part because the place where we used to go for that kind of trusting report is not entirely gone, but is so much weaker, and that's the newspaper. I'm not lamenting the demise of newspapers. I'm just, but we're trying at night to find what is the substitute for the newspaper. How is it that we're going to find that verifiable and trustworthy news report that tells us what's going on, who's doing it, what are the problems, what are the possibilities, the opportunities, and where do we go from here? That's a really important function, and the trust that that engenders is not about ideology, is not about Republican, Democrat, left or right, or anything like that. It's not about shouting. It's about what's actually happening. What are people actually doing? Once you can agree on those basic facts, then you can add, well, I think I'd rather move this way or I'd rather move that way. That's fine. But first, you've got to have an informed citizenry. And Jack Knight was never confused that the main part of a newspaper was the news. And then that's the reason the editorial pages, the opinion pages, were always in the back.
Yeah, trying to keep credibility and integrity and objectivity and all of that very clear, that those differentiating factors were really important. You know, the phone has changed our world. When I gave a speech at Loyola a few years ago where I sort of retraced what had happened since the iPhone came to the scene around 2007, I think the date was. How many people there are in the world and how fast these things proliferated. We saw it coming, but I don't think anyone could have seen how fast it happened to disintermediate media. And I think the bigger thing, newspapers never were hurting for readers for the most part. It was just that the financial model that helped the newspaper be successful completely melted down. Because now with iPhones, there are very much more targeted and affordable approaches that don't require the mass media approach that newspapers brought to the table. And so the Knight Foundation, under your leadership, has been really working with communities all over the United States, projects all over the United States, looking for different approaches to how to engage the community in a trustful process where they can be informed with good information, objective information, and then make their own decisions about how they want to proceed. So why don't we start having some conversations about that, and then after the break, which we're coming up here in a second, we'll talk more about that. But why don't you go ahead and start? What are some of the projects you guys are working on these days?
Well, I think what we're actually trying to do is precisely to go back to that local level where trust, where news can engender trust, because we've got to go back, I think, to the beginning. We have no business, we have no capacity really to deal with anything or at the level of the national shouting match on television. Yeah. And so we're going back to where people are. Yogi Berra, the famous Yankee catcher and philosopher, said one time, if the fans don't want to come to the ballpark, nobody can stop them. The fans went to a different ballpark. We got to find the fans where they are.
We'll come back after this break and finish the conversation. Thank you, Alberto.
Subscribe for free to the Coast View podcast on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In the house, none other than the executive director of MDA, Glenn McCullough.
No less than CNBC last week said Mississippi is taking the lead, along with North Carolina, I think in Montana and Rhode Island. They mentioned Ingalls Shipbuilding and the integration of young students into the workplace was with the Toyota Wellspring Fund, with the principal from New Albany High School. He said our 10th graders right now work on equipment that's in the Toyota Corolla assembly plant in Blue Springs, and they are so energized and excited they cannot wait to go to work and assemble automobiles.
All of our work on drones, all of our work on building helicopters, our radar system in forest, automobile entry. There's a lot of good things going on that you only hear here because most of the media out there would not tell you.
We tune into the Paul Gallo Show, Super Talk, Mississippi.
I'll use that as a promo. Thank you, sir.
From the Gallo Archives.
Summer days, winter nights, my heating and air ain't working right. Before my troubles get any worse, I'll pick up the phone and sing this verse. Barnes, oh Barnes, won't you help me? Barnes Heating and Air.
Hello, Barnes Heating and Air.
Barnes Heating and Air, 832-9457. 832-9457.
When you need to pick up a last-minute birthday card or gift, stop into Love's Pharmacy and Gifts in Pass Christian. Yes, Love's is a full-service pharmacy combining local hospitality and affordability. When half of the store has unique gifts, beautiful decorations for your home, fragrances, and free gift wrapping, you only have to make one stop. Love's Pharmacy and Gifts, 12345 Vidalia Road in Pass Christian. If you love great service with a smile, you'll love Love's Pharmacy, with a second location now open in Ocean Springs.
If you're one of the millions of Americans who owes back taxes, if you get nervous when the mail comes because you might get a letter from the IRS, then you've heard. Their enforcement agents are cracking down this year and can garnish your paycheck, levy your bank accounts. Even your home or business could be at risk over unpaid taxes. It's all true, but it's also true there's a way out. It's called the Fresh Start Initiative, an important government program for tax debt assistance. The award-winning experts at Optima Tax Relief will fight to get you the best deal possible, protecting your paycheck and your assets from IRS collections. But don't delay, because the IRS is tacking on interest and hefty penalties every single day. So don't wait until it's too late. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-936-9033. 800-936-9033. 800-936-9033.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Does climbing the flight of stairs to your elevated home make your joints ache? Need an outdoor elevator for your home or business? ELS Lifts provides residential, commercial, and cargo lifts designed to withstand the harsh coastal environment. To simplify your elevated living needs, every ELS lift is fabricated with marine-grade aluminum using stainless cables and hardware. Available for beach homes, commercial buildings, barns, and even houseboats. Call 888-990-LIFT or visit elslifts.com.
Ugh, I've got to get that fixed.
Uneven driveways causing headaches? Helms Polyfoam will fix it without tearing up your driveway in the process. We inject polyfoam under settled concrete to stabilize it in a matter of minutes, not days. Polyfoam is used on runways, railways, and highways, so there is no question it will support your driveway. We also repair seawalls, sidewalks, pond dams, retaining walls, and unstable soil. Visit HelmsPolyfoam.com or call Helms Polyfoam at 601-966-7821.
It's a great time to be on the coast, and we love talking about it. Welcome to Coast View with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back. We're having a really incredible conversation with Alberto Ibargüen, one of my heroes, who's also an important partner to coastal Mississippi through his work at the Knight Foundation. We're having a great conversation about the changing media landscape. But the Knight Foundation has been involved really on the forefront of helping fund some efforts that really could change the way communities are engaged. Alberto, why don't you share a couple of those with us?
Great. I want to just point out that I don't try to channel Jack Knight, but I try always to remember the way Jim and Jack Knight ran their papers. Yeah. They produced a good product. They were always locally focused, really respected local, and they, from the beginning, were devoted to the intelligent application of technology. In the first place, these guys in Akron buy the Miami Herald, and through the use of new information technology called the telephone, Jack Knight is able to be editor of both his papers. He ultimately, his favorite title, was always editor-in-chief of Knight newspapers, and he could do that because he was so committed to the new technology, whether it was moving from hot type to cold type, and you know what that means, Ricky.
Yeah.
And even in 1948, there's a German magazine talking about Jack Knight, this American publisher who thought he might one day fax his newspaper to his customers when most of the world didn't even know what a fax machine was. Here, this guy was already thinking about how to apply it. So I want Knight Foundation, his foundation, to live in that spirit. And so we just announced a $300 million initiative to support local news on digital platforms at the local level. That means we support the American Journalism Project that's standing up and helping to support 35 or 40 local news operations across the United States, done by the same guy who started the Texas Tribune so successfully. That means we support projects like the American Journalism Project that sends young journalists to work in local communities across the country. ProPublica that is doing similar kind of work with investigative reporting, solutions journalism. In fact, if your listeners are interested, they can look at kf.org/support local news to see a minor listing of some of the projects. And we also support a program that raises matching money for local nonprofit news. You talked earlier in the program, Ricky, about the business model failing. And Jack Knight was always conscious of the fact that the First Amendment guarantees free speech. It does not guarantee the business that is necessary in order to have the successful newspaper that supports that free speech. So if you're going to have an independent newspaper, you've got to have a viable business, because you've got to have the ability to walk away when you know this as a publisher. If somebody called you up and said, I'm pulling all my ads from your paper because I don't like the way you covered that story. And you say, well, was the story true? That's not the point. I didn't want this you've had this conversation, so have I. Yes. And you wanted to be able to walk away. You did that because you had a business that people respected and was broad enough that you could do that. That's what we're looking for at the local level. We're also, for the first time, now that we're in this new world of digital and the impact of technology, and people are throwing stuff out about, what should this so-called Section 230 that prevents people from suing Amazon, or not Amazon, but Google or Facebook for whatever they publish, should that be changed? Should Facebook or Google or Amazon be broken up in antitrust? Well, those are interesting questions to ask, and we're at a point where, as a society, we should be asking them. But let's not just jump into it, because these will have incredible consequences. And so we've taken $50 million and invested it in independent scholarship research at places like Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, the University of Washington, University of North Carolina, University of Texas, Stanford, New York University, Indiana University. We want lots of perspectives, some liberal, some conservative, middle of the country, each coast. I want a lot of people looking at these things and looking at them in a way that says, what are the consequences of doing the breakup? What are the consequences of leaving it the same? What are the consequences in social media platforms of doing nothing, of saying, well, Google and Facebook and Twitter, you guys decide. Is that the way we ought to go? There's a possibility. Or do you want some kind of regulation? Alberto? My instinct as an old newspaper guy is not regulation, but I also know that this is doing tremendous damage to the society to have this kind of hate speech going on.
We've come to the end of our time, but man, I've enjoyed this conversation. I hope to be able to get you back again.
Love to.
So on behalf of the Coastal Mississippi, thanks for your partnership. Thanks for your friendship. Thanks for your passion. I'm really proud we had this opportunity. So have a great day, buddy.
Thank you, Ricky. KF.org if anybody's interested.
And we'll have Reed Geis, the wonderful Reed Geis, on Monday. Look forward to talking to Reed. Have a great day.
And watch episodes of Coast View on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to SuperTalkMSGulfCoast.com.